Some guy, I don't know who he is. A little smile. He's got a baseball hat on. You look good, Tom.
Good evening, everyone.
Welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you good. Shannon, can you hear us? You might be muted.
Is that it?
Yeah, there you are.
Okay, I'm so bad at I don't want to click the wrong thing and like take over the wrong thing. But I'm here. I'm with y'all.
Okay. All right, welcome everybody. This is the Recreation Advisory Committee. It's Thursday, August 20th, 2026 at 5 o'clock. We're in Orleans Town Hall in the Skakit Room. We've got a considerable agenda to go through. I'll start things off by opening it up to public comment and see if anybody would like to comment or say anything in the room. This is a chance for anybody from the public if they want to talk about anything. Okay. Alrighty. Tom, we're going to start right away on an update on Finch Skate Park and the letter that was written a few months ago from NASA Together We Can inquiring about a possible transition. Has anything happened?
Yeah, so unfortunately, I don't have any more news than I did in June. It's one of those things, especially in the summertime, it's hard for the school board and the superintendent to get a hold of them. And so I know they have a lot on their plates, but I spoke with Kim this week and they're in active conversations. And I can just tell you that it's trending in the right direction, but I really don't have any more additional information on that.
Okay, Tom, do you remember when the lease is up? Is it May of 2027?
I'm not sure, but I think that's what is, I'm not going to say complicated, but just they want to make sure that everything is taken care of prior to any commitments being made. Whether that's the lease, making sure all three towns, which town, or if it's all three towns, would be taking over the oversight of that. So they just want to make sure that they're doing their due diligence.
Okay, great, thank you. Erica, do you want to add anything?
I'll just add that I went to a skate event on Saturday, and I did reach out to some people that I knew there talking about leadership at NASA Together We Can. As I had stated in the letter, I was having difficulty recruiting new leadership to take over as I was ready to transition out, and that's why I had approached the towns, and so I was sort of just in good faith, just continuing those efforts to reach out to see if there were people in the skate community who did in fact want to take it over, before all these decisions were made, just to keep feelers out there.
Yeah, and just one thing to that, Erica, I know you sent myself, the Brewster, and Eastham Rec directors an invoice for the season, and after that was sent to us, each of us had a conversation, and we are talking to our town managers as well. So we're trying the best we can to get answers sooner rather.
Great, thanks, Tom.
Is that invoice start
That's the July 1st.
July 1?
2027 invoice, and as I stated in my email when I sent the invoice, I didn't know for certain that a transition was going to take place, and if it did take place, I didn't know when. So I invoiced them business as usual as I would have, knowing that any excess funds that I had in the bank was just going to revert back to the park anyway. So I didn't see any issue with, and nobody raised an issue about paying it. So I think that's fine.
Okay. All right, moving on to the Eldridge Park renovation. Tom, can you give us an idea of how things are going in terms of the bids that were received and the selection process?
Yeah, so a lot has happened over the last 2 months. We were able to finalize those plans. We were able to go out to bid, and we had a lot of interested parties. Our questions were 2 or 3 pages long of interested parties, and then we ultimately got 6 bids, and we are looking into which one would be considered the lowest bid. And the reason why it's not just clear cut is because we had those add-offs that we talked about. So there is the base bid. Then if we had enough funding, depending on that base bid, to go with add-off number 1, then that order of lowest bidder could possibly change. So then is the lowest bidder number 5 or number 4? And then we go into the additional adult, which would be adult number 2. And then who is that lowest bidder? Then if we have enough funding, who is the lowest bidder for adult number 3? So they're working through that right now, the procurement team, as well as Weston and Sampson, to make sure that we have the exact number in place, because it's trending in the direction that we may possibly be able to get 3 of the 4 adults in with this project. But that would obviously, not to complicate things, but we would just have to make sure that we're doing our due diligence to make sure that the lowest bidder is awarded that. And so they're finalizing exactly how much that would be and who it would be. And then we're hopeful to award that contract very, very soon, and then we can make that public and start getting our schedule together. Something that's not specifically about the bidders, but just in general is once we have the construction company under contract and we go over our schedule, that's when the recreation department, along with the town manager's office, will start to spread out all of that information and let people know the schedules, the timings, and how long it looks like it'll be, and then provide updates either monthly or quarterly. I guess in this sense it would probably be every 2 months to be able to let everybody know exactly where we are. One of the biggest things is I was nervous when we were taking care of fall programming, that we didn't want to have, okay, well, pickleball will be for the first week or the first week and a half at Eldridge Park, and then we're moving to OES. So we made sure that every one of our fall programs would be starting at the Orleans Elementary School when it came to pickleball and tennis, and I'll speak a little bit more on that during my director's report of our rationale and what we came up with. But that's the update I do have right now. We're trending in the direction that beginning to middle of September, we're going to be able to break it.
Okay, that's great news, that's great news. Mike just entered the room, and Mike, is there anything you wanted to add about the process for Eldridge Park, or?
I think Tom did a great job.
Okay,
Okay.
great, thanks. Tom, do you think that things are still pointing towards early September breaking ground? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a crystal ball, so I can't tell you with 100% certainty, but all signs are pointing towards we're going to be able to.
Okay.
So it's very exciting, and we just want to make sure we're doing everything properly. And now that Mike is there, he can speak to that if he needed to. But he's been doing a great job making sure that all our I's are dotted and all our T's are crossed.
Okay. Any members have any questions for anybody? Okay, so let's move on to the Recreation Director's monthly report. It was definitely a busy summer, right?
It's been a very busy summer. I will just start with, obviously, registrations was only 218, and that was for June 25th to August 17th. That's because most of our summer programs were already registered, and it was a little bit lighter during the summer for any new programs. So nothing too crazy, but one thing I did want to point out is our summer field trips had an awesome turnout. We did ice skating, and we had 75 children, and then we did Wicked Waves twice. And the first time we had 74, and the second time we had 79. And then we had Ride Away, which was the bike riding and the kayaking. We had 24 registered for that. And then the Ryan's Family Amusement Park, we had 74. And just one thing I would like to touch on is a lot of these programs we can't do, and a lot of these trips we can't do if it wasn't for Yvonne, who is just such a tremendous help. And he always is looking at new ideas and always looking at ways that we can get more children on the buses and to make sure that we're coordinating properly with those vendors and those businesses. And so he just did a phenomenal job this summer. And I know that we actually could talk a little bit about the summer program. And overall, I have zero complaints. Our summer director was in her second year, and she really came into her own, and she did a phenomenal job organizing, overseeing, communicating. We had no issues with any of our playground instructors, and it was just a phenomenal summer at OES. And I don't really talk about Just Try It because the gym teacher, Brian, there just does what a wonderful job, that it sometimes gets overlooked because he just is consistent and the children love what they do there. So it was just a great summer overall, but I did need to give my kudos to Yvonne because he does a phenomenal job with organizing a lot of that summer. Moving on, so program revenue was $10,496, and then obviously our registrations were a little bit lower, so financial assistance program, we only had 2 people. With the fall programming, because of this construction, we wanted to stay away from Eldridge Park because we didn't want any confusion. So working with Brendan Gutman, who also has been a tremendous help in this, we've kind of figured out what we were going to do. And 2 of the big things that I'd like to highlight is the pickleball program and the early bird fitness. So we spoke with Tavi from the library, and fortunately our early bird fitness, which is in the mornings, does not conflict with the opening of the library. So we were given permission to be able to use the concrete and the town green for our early bird fitness. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, the only change is that it's in a different location, same time. And what's really nice is we'd love to be out on the green, but you know how it gets in the morning sometimes with the dew on the ground, or if it rains, we'll be able to go to the concrete and we don't have to worry about any overlap with the library. So that's something that we're really excited about. So there's not much change there. For pickleball, there is a bit of a change. We really had to put our heads together to find what we can do. And we were thinking about temporary courts, we were thinking about temporary spaces, but if we're hopeful that by April, we're able to be at Eldridge, or May, we're able to be at Eldridge, we didn't want to spend too much money on making this happen. So with Brendan's help, we talked with DPW, and they will be painting some lines on those tennis courts at OES to make them pickleball regulation, just enough so that the people playing will know where the pickleball lines are. And what we're going to do, instead of Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 11, what we're doing is Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 2:30 to 5. Now, the reason why we picked 2:30 is school dismissal is at 2 o'clock. I know they start to dismiss a little bit earlier than that, but they have to do everything with the buses, and they have to get all the children out of there, and we didn't want any overlap. So we're going to be communicating that you cannot utilize the pickleball courts until 2:30, and hopefully that really mitigates the overlap. But we'll be able to do it at 2:30 because we're already approved to be able to utilize the facilities at that time like we do with our normal programs. So we'll be able to have it there, and then on Tuesdays, I believe it's going to be our pickleball clinic, same time, and then tennis will be Thursdays and Saturdays. So it's a little bit different time frame. I know not everybody's happy, but we're happy that we're able to at least provide some semblance of pickleball this fall and winter. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew about that. So it's really, really exciting that we were able to not just shut down for early bird fitness and for pickleball. But those are the 2 big things I really wanted to mention.
Tom, what will happen once we get later into the fall with pickleball and tennis? Once it starts getting dark earlier, will they just end earlier?
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, they'll get until at least 4:30. And I guess it really depends on how many people are playing at that time too. And I know Ken can speak to this. As it gets a little bit colder and later on in the days, not as many people are playing when it gets to that point. So it's not too much of a concern, but yeah, we would have to end a little bit earlier.
Okay. Any comments or questions on the pickleball tennis topic, transitioning, or anything like that? Tom, you want to, are there other things that you want to highlight on your director's report? I've got a couple questions.
No, please go right ahead.
Your numbers for the summer, for the playground program went down a little bit, 148 to 134. Was that good that it shrunk a little bit? You weren't having to turn away kids in the end?
So for twofold, going into this year, we anticipated that we would maybe have to have a wait list because last year we took all the children and we were stretched very thin. So not only did we hire an extra person, but what we decided to do was really make sure our ratios were proper this year. So we were going to be taking a few less children. It worked out this way that not many were left on the wait list. I mean, if I'm saying we denied a child, it's because it was 3 weeks or 4 weeks into the program, and they wanted to register for the final 2 weeks. And we already had our continuity, and we already had everything going. So that's why we just didn't allow it. But we did intentionally shrink that so that we can make sure that the supervision was top notch this year.
Okay. Great. And I have spies within both programs, and they were definitely happy with how things were run this year. I especially like the fact that Pearl occasionally had to really put her foot down and deal with some of the more mouthy, soon-to-be fifth graders. It's a challenge, and my hope is that the playground program eventually becomes CAMP and starts to evolve and continues to change so we can really meet the needs of the town and the residents and the families that love the program. Anybody have any comments or questions for Tom? Okay, so moving on for the monthly report. So the advisory committee has a charge, and the charge basically helps us with our marching orders, and the town manager's office has been in the process this early summer and summer to go through and make revisions to the charges, and the first step in the process is a revision by select board members, staff members, and the town manager's staff, and they this week have provided us with the first version of their revision. Then I get to go and meet with them and talk about revisions and possible changes, and we'll have time set aside at one of our meetings, which will be our next meeting, to discuss those amendments. And then it goes back to the town manager's office and the select board for decision. So, Tom, do you want to talk about the overall set of changes in between the first version, the old version, and the new version?
Yeah, so, and it's really good that Mike is here too, because I know he was part of some of this process. It's a lot of just tightening up verbiage and making sure that everything falls in line with the vision, right? And one of the things I think was on the forefront of Kim and Mef's mind was a lot of things that were written down there were because of certain discourse that was going on, I guess, in the department prior to my arrival. And I think that it was clear that there was some verbiage that needed to be taken out or could be taken out, given that there's a lot more transparency with the monthly meetings and things like that. So I would implore everyone to please review both of them and let me know if you have specific questions, because it might get confusing looking at both pages and things like that, but there was the opportunity in the discussion, I believe it was 2 days ago or yesterday, about a lot of things, making sure that the Rec Advisory Committee was heard and that they had the opportunity to add to that charge or voice their opinion on the changes of the charge. So that's why in there it said open/TBD. That's for your input, as well as not just reviewing any of the changes.
Okay. Do any members want to make comments about where they're seeing differences? My sense is that this is just an initial discussion and we're not going to start ripping out sentences and making major edits, that it's sort of a take home and think about it and then bring it back to our next meeting. Is that what you think would be able to work with the group? Tracy, do you want to say anything?
I think, so the charge kind of, when we were, and I hate to have so much baggage, but here's my baggage. When we were a new committee, the charge, we were told, was a tool. And so I've always approached it as such. So I think when I look at, and I think, as I've said a couple times, including at meetings, the last revision of the charge was from a really defensive position on the part of the committee, because we really didn't feel like we were receiving timely information that we needed, and we wanted to make sure that things were being compiled and recorded. So that's why there's a lot of documentation and reporting in that old charge. So I think it needs an update. My concern is, one, just in terms of teeth, and I'm not trying, not that we want to be this all-powerful committee, but the opportunity to offer input on things like policy, fee structure, budget, efforts to broaden the scope of what the department does. I would love to see that outlined in the charge, because we might get to it, just anyway through the director's report and that sort of thing, but having that formally as part of what we're being asked to do, I think could make a difference. And then the other thing that I noticed is that the reporting changes so that we are not reporting. Jamie would not talk directly to Meth or whoever the staff liaison is. He would talk to the director who would talk to Meth, which just seems a little roundabout since we're appointed by the select board, and the select board traditionally, or at least in the past, the select board crafts the charge. So it seems strange that we would sort of step out of that relationship for communication. And I don't know that, and I'll just say, an upcoming item is possible changes in the rec department. That would have really limited what we were able to do and to effectuate change under the last rec administration if we had to go through the department to get to the select board. So again, just in order, to sort of position the committee to be a good partner, but a partner who is, who has a right to provide input on things. Not even guidance, but just input on things, I think would be nice to get in the charge.
Okay. Those are helpful. I noticed that the committee is proposed to be shrunk from 7 to 5 members, so that's
And no associates.
no associates are listed, yeah. I think that there's some additions that I thought are promising too, about the fact that it is encouraging work with the liaison on possible rec projects eligible for CPC funding. That's a really important facet of this. I know it's already been done by this group, but putting that down is helpful. Does anybody have anything else that they wanted to bring up?
So just similar to Tracy, my concern was that originally when we were formed as a committee, it was to give voice to people who didn't have a voice directly to the select board. And there's nothing against you, Tom, because I think you're wonderful, but there's no guarantee that what we say here would then get brought to the select board with the same intent that we all have. And I think as a member of this committee since 2019, we've all played a part when we've needed to show up to those select board meetings and give voice to this committee and those who aren't represented through, whatever channels there are. So I think that is an important, having that direct line of communication. I did have a question where it says the committee will receive, select board will go through the staff week. So will there be no select board representative the way that this is written? Because the way the old one is written, it suggests that there would be a select board representative to our committee. And
There would still be a liaison
okay.
from the select board to the rec advisory committee, and the hope would be that they, come to the meetings similar. And I think it's just verbiage, because like, for instance, in the old one, it said that the recreation director was an ex facto member.
Right.
So the verbiage changed to is the staff
Yes.
liaison to the advisory advisory committee.
Okay.
Okay.
But I was just trying to understand that. And then my other concern was where it says all committee work goals and objectives should align with both the select board goals and the town of Orleans comprehensive plan. And I felt like that language might be limiting, that there may be other things that we shouldn't state, that we can only be concerned with those two things, their goals, and, because certainly we've had our own goals over, the years. We have stated what our goals need to be, and they may not exactly be that. I mean, we're advising them, so to tell us that we can only advise them to what their goals are sounds strange
Okay,
to me.
so maybe that might be couched a little bit differently.
Yeah,
I can take that one. That is language that we are working into every charge. The comprehensive plan, I mean, it sounds redundant, but it is comprehensive in that nature, is that it touches on everything.
right,
It's not meant to be a four-square document where you can only talk about what's in there, but
Right.
that's what the alignment piece is, that I
So-
would not be opposed to.
using considered instead of limited, objectives should align with.
I think one other thing we're
Yeah.
trying to get away from is silos. That's what we've
Right.
seen a lot of, so having the two liaisons kind of working all together is
Mhm.
having things more aligned. So that's the goal there. I don't think
Right.
that changing that kind of language anybody would fight on that.
Right.
That's the intent behind adding that to every charge.
Okay, and the other piece for me, and I mean, this goes back to the history, is making recommendations for budget priorities. That we may have a recommendation for something, and we should be able to voice that. So that was taken out from the
Okay.
previous one.
Okay. All right. Does anybody else have any comments that they wanted to add about the draft? So.
I mean, this is super simple, but it's listed as CPA funding.
Mm.
We've been CPC for a while.
Ah, right.
Right, it's CPA because that's the law, right?
That's what the funding's coming from. CPC is the committee that's local, but they're.
Oh, okay, all right,
They're
that's
carrying-
my
I mean, essentially, it's the
misunderstanding.
same thing.
They're carrying out the CP.
Got it, okay.
So next month, we'll spend a little bit more time on this, and maybe I'll make some revisions based on the input you gave me, and we'll have a slightly different version. And if you could join us too, that would be great, next month. I'll include you in the list. Tom, did you want to add anything else before we move on?
Regarding the charge, I would just implore everyone to take their time reviewing it to make sure that whatever notes, because obviously when you read something right away, you get flooded with things and ideas. Sometimes you forget what you really thought about when you were writing down your notes. Just take your time and really come back next month so you can have a good discussion and make sure that you're putting out exactly what you would like to see to the select board.
Okay, great, thanks. Tom, I'm gonna move a small item in the agenda. I'm gonna have us do the approval of our minutes before we turn things back over to you again. So we have our minutes in your packet, or that I emailed to everybody for June 25th. And I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So I have one comment.
Okay, how about we do an approval and a second, and then we can do edits?
Discussion.
Yeah, a motion to approve, and then a
Yes.
second, and then go ahead, Sharon.
Just under where it said update on Eldridge Park, it says one pickleball court, but it's not just one pickleball court.
Oh, will be ADA accessible.
Ah, okay. Oh, playground, tennis courts, and, okay, I understand.
Okay.
Got it.
Oh, I see, okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty, any other edits or changes? Okay, because Shannon is online, we need to do a roll call for approval. We'll start with you, Shannon. Do you approve the minutes? I think you're muted. Okay. Maybe she stepped away for a moment. how about we just start with Ken, and you have to say your name and your vote.
Ken Gandolfi.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Erica O'Reilly, aye.
Tracy Murphy, aye.
Sharon Vassar, aye.
Carolyn Witt, aye.
Jamie Valley.
I'm on
aye.
here now, you guys. Shannon had, aye.
All right, thank you, Shannon.
Sorry.
Just want to make sure you didn't nod off.
But I figured it out now,
Okay, great.
so we're good.
All right, so back over to Tom and Recreation Director's announcement.
Yeah, kind of dreading this conversation. So earlier this year, prior to the summer starting, I was provided some unfortunate news from some family members. And over the course of the last few weeks, I was hopeful that we would be able to work everything out and things would even out. But it became pretty apparent early on that this family member's health is going to be more of a priority than we thought, and it's more severe than we thought. And with that, I spoke with Kim and Mark in the town manager's office, and I won't be returning as a full-time recreation director for the town of Orleans after August. It was a very difficult conversation my wife and I had to have, deciding on our future, where we wanted to be. And one of the things was we were hopeful that we'd be able to live on Cape Cod and I'd be able to work in Orleans until I retired. But you know what they say, tell God you're, what is it, you know, something about you have a plan, you know, God has a different story for you. So it's just one of those things where I have to put my family and my loved ones first. And with that, it kind of transitions into the other aspect of the next agenda item. And after I told Kim that it looked not too promising that I'd be re-entering, her and Brewster quickly started to have a brief conversation about the possibility of regionalizing. And I know that that's been at the forefront for a lot of Cape Cod towns, not just for recreation, but other departments like health and building and different resources and sharing. And this conversation was revitalized by, in light of the news. And so myself and Mike Radone, the recreation director of Brewster, were tasked with coming up with a preliminary idea. I don't want to call it a plan, an idea of how a regionalization could work between Brewster and Orleans. And we've had ongoing conversations and things have morphed and some things have changed a little bit, but we put together a proposal for our town manager and Brewster's town manager. And they felt comfortable enough for them to bring it to the select board. And first domino in that was to see if Brewster Select Board would be receptive to the possibility. And they had their meeting on August 10th. They're receptive to it. And again, draft, nothing is set in stone. There's a lot of conversations that need to be had. And then the next part is to bring it publicly to our select board in Orleans. And that conversation will be taking place on October 26th to see if they're receptive to it, answer a lot of questions, and then if both parties do agree to move forward with exploring more of the proposal, Mike and I would sit down again, then town managers get involved, select board members get involved, and see how we can really shape this. And from the get-go, it was always, could this be a pilot program? Nothing permanent. And one of the big things for Kim was her concern was she didn't want to lose the momentum and the continuity that we currently have. And she didn't want to see any stall of that. And so that's why we were tasked with looking into this. And you know, that's where we're at right now. I'd be happy to answer some questions, but a lot will be discussed on the October 26th meeting, and that's a lot to digest, all in one-winded conversation. So I apologize, but if anyone has initial questions, I'd be happy to answer them, or Mike. So.
Okay, so let's pause just for a moment. Tom, you went from your announcement straight into the transition proposal. And I just want to stop for a moment and say how grateful, on behalf of this committee and me personally, we all are of all the work that you've been doing, and what a shock this is that that you're not going to be staying with us until you retire, because you'd be, you've done great work over the years here, and yeah, we have considerable momentum, and we're going to keep it going because of the work that you've done. So, thank you so much for, pouring your heart into this operation. There's nobody in town hall and outside who doesn't believe that you've really made strong improvements with this community, and this community really cares about you. So, this was a very big decision.
I appreciate that so much.
Yeah, and I'd much rather be saying it in person, and not over a couple thousand miles.
Can I just piggyback?
Sure.
And I will also say, I sing your praises a lot, and having teenagers and 2 teenagers who have worked under you, and I have said to them, look at how Tom shows up for the community and everything else. And I said, before I heard this news, I think 48 hours earlier, I'd been in the car with my daughter, and maybe you had an email or somehow you came up, but I said, it's too bad that in some ways that Tom is as exceptional as he is. It's too bad more people aren't like you, but more people aren't like you. That level of commitment and responsiveness and patience with this committee, listening to all these different viewpoints and truly endeavoring to get the job done on all sorts of levels is really exceptional. So I'm very sorry to lose you, but as I'm also really grateful that you were here at a pivotal time for the department. So thank you.
Thank you. I really don't have much to say that's very touching. Just thank you, and I just appreciate all of you, and want you all to know that regardless of what happens and how it works out, I will never leave this department in a lurch. And these people, I've really grown to love Orleans, not just during work hours, also in the off hours. So it was a very difficult decision.
Yeah. Can you, switching back onto the draft agreement, can you give us a couple of specific examples in terms of staff changes that might remain through the process?
Yeah.
Can you talk a little
Yeah.
bit about 2 employees here, 1 employee there? Is that stuff that's public that you can talk about now, or is it still considered?
I think I can discuss the proposal that I wrote up, or that I was part of writing up. So as it stands now, Orleans has a recreation director. And I'm not using the whole title, but we have a recreation, culture, and community events director. We have 2 program managers that are full-time, and what are considered 2 program coordinators that are part-time. Then Brewster has 1 recreation director, 1, I believe it's like an assistant director / program manager. I'm going to use our terminology because every town is kind of different. And they have 2 part-time coordinators. So the way that this process would lay out is we would have 1 regional director, 1 regional assistant director, and the thought was the 1 director would be at one of the locations half the time, and then the assistant director would be at the other location. And then whether that's 3 times a week to 2 times a week, or the full week and then switching on and off. But the regional assistant director would be in one place and the regional director would be in the other, and vice versa. Orleans would retain 2 full-time program managers and their 2 part-time program coordinators. Brewster would maintain their 2 full-time employees and their 2 part-time. That would obviously be up to them given their funding source. The one big difference also would be the recommendation of putting another full-time employee in the Orleans Rec Department as, for lack of a better term, office manager. Now, depending on funding, availability, and different things like that, would this person be part-time, would this person be full-time, that really would be to the select board and the town manager's office to decide that. There's a lot of different tasks. And so one big thing too I want to get clear is both of our full-time employees are extremely efficient and proficient at their jobs. And we don't want to lose that continuity. We don't want to lose, I keep using that term, momentum. So having somebody there, not only as like the regional director, but also a quote unquote office manager, or however we would put it, to be able to assist in certain things that I would have been doing, which is payroll, invoicing, also answering phones, helping out with registrations, doing things for online and the websites and things like that. That would be extremely helpful. And part of this entire process, Mark Reel, our assistant town manager, would help assist with the day-to-day operations while everyone's getting comfortable and adjusted to their role. Part of that is, I mentioned that I would not be full-time recreation director after August. I'm happy to be part of the conversation and be here as long as the town needs me to help facilitate this change. And, work with the changes being made.
So at this point in time,
This is just a draft and a proposal, but like everything I do, I make sure that I have everything taken care of if things were to come into fruition. So this is a proposal.
okay. So there's a money piece that Orleans would send to Brewster.
That would need to be discussed.
Okay. And so that's something to be figured out, and also whether the Orleans office manager is gonna be part-time or full-time.
Or if, again, the select board decides that they do or don't want.
Okay. And right now, there's no public document that's out there, but there might be something that's in the select board packet for their meeting
Yes.
next week? Okay.
Just to be clear, Tom has said that the meeting was
October.
October.
I'm
It's
sorry,
next
I meant August 26th.
Okay.
It's next week.
Next Wednesday.
The packet will be part of
The select board.
Okay. Hey, Tom, can you spend a little bit of time talking about what's gonna happen with cultural and community events as part of this
I would
proposal?
rather wait until I have the town manager weigh in on the August 26th meeting, just I'd feel more comfortable with that.
Okay,
I think one thing I can say, and it's kind of why I came, Mark's not available tonight, so he's gonna kind of fill the vacuum for Tom. I think you all referenced what job Tom has done, and we've seen that on the staff side. So this was difficult news for us as well, completely understand what his choices are, but having the ability to have, Tom reports to Mark now, so Mark will fill that vacuum, recreation, culture, community events as well. Given the circumstances, as I think you referenced, this is a pilot, so this was kind of the best of a bad situation, or I shouldn't say bad, the best of a evolving situation. So I think having somebody who's been kind of overseeing the department step in on the day-to-day will make it as seamless as possible from this end. I think that when they discuss this on Wednesday, he'll be able to talk more about those pieces of how they fit together, how they will fit together, and then what is being piloted versus what is being shifted on our end.
okay. Thanks. Any other questions from the members or statements relative to what they've heard so far?
I mean, I think, and also I echo everybody's sentiments, Tom. You've done a tremendous, tremendous job, and we are sad to see you go. It doesn't seem to me, I mean, you talk about regionalizing. Is that for sort of, I get why we would do it in the short term because we're out a rec director. What are the synergies that you see, or what are the benefits to regionalizing?
Yeah, so I can speak to that. So what we wanted to do when we were discussing this proposal and trying to figure out what would make the most sense is we don't want Orleans to lose its identity, and we didn't want Brewster to lose its identity. So when we talk about continuity, we talk about this regionalizing, like what does that actually mean? So what would happen is we have specific programs that we offer that Brewster doesn't, and vice versa. We also have sports programs and different activities that already is teams within the region. So for instance, I'll just use soccer as an example. We have a younger team, 2nd and 3rd grade, then we have a 4th through 6th grade team. Brewster creates a team, Eastham, Wellfleet, and then Provincetown and Truro, depending on how many children they have, they send them down to a different town. We would keep that separate. So Orleans would still have their Orleans team, they would still play their home games in Orleans. The only difference is if we could not get enough children, we would then go to Brewster, or Brewster would then come to us, depending on how many children. We already do that, and this would just kind of formalize that. And then the other aspect is we have after-school activities, or we have weekend activities that Brewster doesn't offer, and again, vice versa. So what we would do is it would now allow an Orleans resident to register for those Brewster activities, and would allow a Brewster resident to register for those Orleans activities. Now, one of the things I did mention, and I put into the proposal is, I don't know how frequently a parent from Brewster would like to get their child from the elementary school and drive them 10, 15 minutes to OES for an after-school program, but it's possible. And, you know, we have open gym in the fall, we have open gym in the summertime for basketball and things like that, and it would be nice to be able to offer that to Brewster residents. And we do offer non-resident programs to non-residents, but that comes with an additional fee. This fee would then go to a resident rate for Brewster, and the same thing for Brewster for Orleans residents. So overall, if we offer, I'm just throwing a number out there, if we offer 10 programs and Brewster offers 11, that pool just got larger for a parent to be able to decide what program to take their child to.
Can I add, on the fees, Brewster is historically more expensive than Orleans. Do you know how those sorts of things would be navigated?
Yeah, so
Like even
that
even their soccer program is 40 to our 30?
Yeah, so that discussion would need to be had prior to anything being signed. We would want to make sure that each child or each parent doesn't have to pay any more or any less than the other one. So that conversation still needs to be had. This was the preliminary discussion on if it's possible. And after both town select boards decide if this is a route they'd like to go, then we really have to sit down and go over the financial situation of that. That's a very good point.
The only other thing I'll throw just to be a stinker is I did watch the Brewster Select Board meeting and they didn't seem that pumped on sharing their resources. So that also seems like a potentially difficult conversation. Like the idea that Orleans kids would also be right in there on priority signups. It didn't appear to be part of how they envisioned things.
No.
And also, when the conversation of camp issues came up, they're they've got a new pool, they've got a huge new property, and it doesn't really seem like they're interested in Orleans kids.
If I can the only other thing I'll just say on the fee stuff, because again, like the history of the committee has been very much reluctant to, very wary of fees and fee increases. So Orleans has, I think, an exceptionally user-friendly waiver program. So that anyone who can't afford a program for whatever reason, we don't even need to know the reason, is able to take the program for free. Brewster doesn't have a waiver program. They have like a fundraising place on their website where people can donate, and then if you can't pay for a program all or in part, you can apply to use some of that funds, but there's no guarantee that the funds will be there when you need them. And so that is all, so I think there's some nitty-gritty stuff when it comes to the fees that that will have to be navigated delicately because, you know, I think we've really prioritized making programs very low cost and very accessible and not letting cost be a barrier.
Yep, that's very important.
I think if I could, just quickly, I think asking about the synergies is the right question. You know, sitting in the town manager's office, one of the questions we get often is why does everything cost so much? So we are looking at ways to be more efficient wherever possible. And I think that as you kind of bring up the nitty-gritty, that looking into a pilot, this is the stuff that is going to bubble up of this works, this doesn't work, how can we fix this? So these would be the things to monitor in the immediate term, saying, you know, the signups for this program did not work because they were, you know, 1.5 times the number of interested children. The cost was different. So these are things that we can identify as, we can fix this, this can go forward, or this is not going to work. This broke during the pilot and we're going to either have to change something or, ultimately, you know, there isn't the enthusiasm on both sides that we hope for. So I think that's the things that we're going to be looking for immediately in the short term to see if it is viable, because those are the points. And you would know best because you've been in this for 7+ years.
Right, and I just think that's, you know, those are kind of the foreseeable bumps. So I just don't know that the idea that this is the smoother way to move through a difficult time in the department with the loss of our director. This doesn't seem like a smooth, like the smoothest possible way to approach this, from my perspective.
Another thing that came up in the discussion was infrastructure projects. Both Orleans and Brewster are about to undergo significant projects, and Brewster indicated that they wanted to just focus on they're doing their projects, and so that's something that Orleans is going to have to make considerable shifts so that we're watching all the nitty-gritty details. I mean, I know it's not a $55 million fire station, but it definitely, things need to go in the right place, things need to be installed correctly, and this is the first time in decades that we've had this level of renovation to Eldridge Park. So we want to make sure it's done right. If Tom were here, I know that he would be checking on stuff regularly and know exactly what's going up. Just take, for instance, when we get to the end of the construction process, a whole bunch of signs need to go up in the new facility indicating rules and regulations for each of those 4 facilities, and those rules and regulations are different. And, you know, Tom and I were talking about that a while ago because he already knows that that's an important element. He needs to get taken care of.
So I just, and again, these are evolving conversations, but the one thing I do want to make abundantly clear, and I know Kim has said so, is although I'm not returning in a full-time capacity, I still will be involved after the end of August, and I would make sure, and I mean, Eldridge Park has become my baby, and I want to make sure that it fully succeeds and it's properly taken care of. And I would make sure, prior to my departure, that that would be at the forefront. And I know that's why Mark got involved a lot, and I know Mike has been involved. And again, these are evolving conversations, and there's a lot more to this, and it's going to get more complex. But I would just urge people to think about 3 years ago and trusting Kim in hiring a new rec director, and me being provided that opportunity and seeing what has transpired over the last 3 years. I just ask that you trust her again, because I know that she is always thinking forward, and I know that she's not going to sign anything that would be negative towards Orleans and its residents.
I mean, I'll even be more direct on that. I think Mark is going to step in the day-to-day on the project from day one. We've already begun that transition. I also get asked all the time, what is a special project? This is it. So I would be filling in gaps, and I don't think Tom, so the details you bring up, that will be managed solely by Orleans staff. We've had eyes on this since June, and I think that will definitely be managed in-house. As far as the transition piece, the regionalization just becomes an add-on as opposed to a confusing piece to add. We're not going to look to add Brewster and say, hey, we're doing this project. This is, Eldridge Park is our project, between the 3 of us, and Messi and Sampson and DPW. We've got that project in our sights for sure.
Sure.
I think just the word regionalization right now makes it sound like a total melding together of the two programs. And from listening to their select board meeting, it didn't sound like that's how they were looking at it for at least the first year, all the way through next summer. That they were saying there's gonna be two separate programs that are gonna run under our existing frameworks, including fees. And if OES kid or an Orleans kid wanted to sign up for Brewster, they'd be signing up as a non-resident and vice versa. So it didn't sound like, at least within the next 365 days, that is gonna be, the case. It's really oversight and director and administratively, how do we keep things copacetic? At least that's how it sounded from their
Sure.
select board.
And I think there's a lot of respect for the director in Brewster and the work that he's done over the years. I've only been digesting this for a week, so this committee has not been able to really chew on this and think about it, and in all honesty, we weren't brought in earlier, which is a little bit frustrating to me, and I need to express that. And I think that we're an advisory committee, we're a group of residents, and often more complex staff decisions are kept up at the town manager's level for a reason. That's what Kim's job is. But I do think that the momentum that we have is significant, and I think that going to a regional type model is a fairly complex endeavor that has been, other than the schools, has been looked at and looked at and looked at and hasn't been done for one reason or another. I do have considerable concerns that regionalization is going to pull the wind from our sails. And I think that there are other changes that could occur, such as separating out culture and community affairs from rec, that I think would not be good for us because of the fact that we've moved into this. And Tracy, add to my comments if you'd like to, but it goes back to when we did the community center study. We were thinking about the idea of how do we create a community-centric entity that's able to balance all those different facets so that a family can come forward and apply for a pottery class and basketball and some sort of an event that they're going to go to and be able to look in a single spot and put all those dots together. And Orleans did that. And I don't know exactly how things were functioning because I'm not inside those works, but I'm hesitant to back away from that. I think that one of the things that all these community members are involved with their families and their friends is the level of enthusiasm and positive support that exists for the system we have now. So a big part of me says regionalizing a system, even on an interim basis, is going to pull away from the strengths that Orleans has really built. And it was a real struggle to get to this point in time. So it's something that I really feel like we need to be very careful in making those decisions, and it's very important for this body to develop their own position. And I don't think we should do that today. It's not on our agenda, so we can't act and vote on something, but I think that we can say it's really important for us to lay out a position by the time next Wednesday's select board meeting happens.
I would only add, it was 3 years ago, when Judy Wilson from COA was interim director. At that point, the thinking was largely that we were maybe headed for some sort of Department of Community Life with someone who would oversee COA, recreation, culture, maybe library. Which I'd almost forgotten, and it's shifted a little, but I still think the bringing together of arts and culture and or of culture and community events in rec is meaningful and distinguishes us from other towns. And I would agree, I think that there's only so much time and energy, and I think seeing that time and energy devoted to regionalization and figuring out what we have in common, what we have to figure out. That's energy kind of like going this way instead of continuing to move towards that, what I still think is this great goal of like the community center without walls and really, really bringing different groups together. So, so that would be a concern just in terms of our focus. And I guess I wonder like if at the end of the year, or the end of the pilot year, it didn't really meet expectations or hopes, what do we have left of our recreation department to reinvest here? Do you know what like how easy is that at that point after a year of not having a director? What's the plan to change course, I guess?
Yeah.
That's a good point.
You know, I think if the town were to go out and seek a replacement director, you know, it's not gonna be Tom.
Right.
And there were a couple bumps that we went through in getting to Tom. And so life is what it is. And, but I do think that if we lose that direction, because it's clear, especially from that August 10th meeting, that there's a lot of issues that are popping up that are not easy
I
issues for
just think
regionalization.
philosophically, I don't know that
Yeah.
we're aligned.
And I think that, you know, if all the members and the members of the public haven't seen that August 10th meeting, please spend the time to go look at the select board meeting. It's about 22 minutes in. Anybody else like to add any other comments?
I mean, I think I would just, I go back to the idea of efficiencies and I can sit here and I can think of reasons that it would be a really good idea. But I don't think I've heard them discussed tonight. So if they're out there, I don't know what the format is for the synergies other than, kids being able to sign up for another town's programs, which, to be fair, they do have the option to do already. I can think of synergies, I just don't know what everybody else is thinking or what the town management is thinking. And I kind of feel like, what is it? Like, what's the elevator pitch to do this?
Yeah, I mean, in the bulk of what Tom said when he was talking about the benefits, it was the shared, exchange of programming. But there's a bunch of other missing pieces there that
Yeah.
are sort of glaring. I think that's what keeps on coming back up in my head over and over
Yeah.
again. So Wednesday, the 26th is a select board meeting. We're invited to participate in the meeting. It's not a joint meeting, but we'll be recognized in the discussion. I think that there's a very good chance that this body will possibly have a position by the time that meeting happens. I'll have to reach back out to schedule another meeting for the members if we do go in that direction. It would have to happen relatively quick in terms of the scheduling, so we're talking about scheduling on a Friday, which is tomorrow, for a possible meeting on Tuesday. That might be Zoom or might not be.
It's hard to have a position without all the information. Like, I feel like a lot of that's gonna be presented on the 26th, and right now, we only have the select board meeting from Brewster to go on, really, information-wise, but Tom has shared with us
We'll
here.
have more information after the packet comes out.
Oh, okay,
Tomorrow.
so the packet comes out tomorrow.
Well, I'd like to say that I'm very sorry to lose Tom, because I feel you were the heart and soul of, well, I don't only feel, I know you were the heart and soul of this. But I looked at that select board meeting with Brewster, and, taking a bad situation that happened awful fast, I thought it might be able to work. I had good feelings with that, and I still do. And it's only a temporary. It's only it's a year out, and then it's going to be looked at again and see what happens. I don't know how much choice we have at this point. And I was happy to hear that, because I'm concerned about, you know, who moves this, who's gonna carry this flag, you know, right now, from starting today onward. So I was happy to hear that, you know, the town is stepping in and gonna pick up some of the slack, and we're all gonna pick up some of the slack, because we all want what's good for the town. What's good for the rec department is good for the town. So our heart and soul is still in there. We're gonna miss you, and wish you the best of luck. And I think let's see what happens.
Yeah, and Ken, thank you. I just want to make one clarification. I did pour my heart and soul into this department, but I'm not the only one, and I'm not just the heart and soul. You committee members, as well as our full-time staff, and everybody is involved with the success of this department.
I mean, Tom is modest, but we understand there are big shoes to fill. That's why there's two of us on the Eldridge Park project already. You know, we're not looking to have anyone in the rec department change. That staffing is going to stay. We're going to have help from Brewster Rec to kind of manage that, and then fill the role as it needs. So it's what we can do at this time. Losing Tom is very difficult, and you know as well as anyone in town. So.
Jamie, can I say something?
Sure.
Thank you, Tom. I'm probably mixing church and state, but you are in my prayers.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have any comments before we close the meeting? All right, a motion to adjourn?
So motion.
Great. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.